Hi, everybody. It's Kim West, the Sleep Lady. And on this episode of the Gentle Parenting Show, I'm so excited to have my colleague, Dr. Brian Stenzler. I just want to read a little bit about his bio before we get into talking about all his wisdom he has to share with us, because it's pretty impressive. He is the best-selling author of Dream Wellness, this book I have right here, The 5 Keys to Raising Kids for a Lifetime of Physical and Mental Health. He received his doctorate of chiropractic degree in 1998 from Life University, and in 1999 he earned a master's degree in sports health science, also from Life University. He's a certified ULT facilitator and corporate consultant and provides wellness and lifestyle coaching and consulting for individuals, families, and businesses around the globe. He has also operated numerous wellness centers. I think you said 5 in California and New York. And he's here today to talk with us about the 5 key wellness secrets to raising a happy, healthy family and kids, right?
That's exactly it.
Thank you, Brian, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what got you to decide to write this book, because I know it's a big undertaking to write a book.
It is. And I never
Mhm,
really thought I was going to write a book. I started writing
mhm,
a little bit over probably 11 or 12 years ago because I had all these families coming in to see me over the years.
mhm,
And the parents that would come and see me, they had their health issues and stuff like that. But what was really tragic is that the kids had a lot of the same issues as their parents.
yeah,
So many of them are avoidable through lifestyle. See, when you mention that
mhm,
I'm a chiropractor, people think of like, adjusting backs and stuff. But that was actually, people coming in for back pain was a very, very small part of my practice, maybe 3 to
mhm,
5%. I was family wellness. So I would basically delve into all the different keys to a wellness lifestyle, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I
mhm,
found myself, like a Xerox machine. I'm constantly saying the same thing over and over and
mhm,
over again. And I'm like, I need to start writing these things down so I don't have to repeat everything. And so I came up with the idea of writing a book. And so I would go days where I would just not stop writing. And then I wouldn't
mhm,
write again for like 3 to 6 months. And then I would
mhm,
write, and then not write again. And when I started
right.
writing, I was concerned that I wouldn't even be able to get 40 or 50 pages out. I'm like, this is going to be a big brochure. Of course, you have the book in your hand, so we know that's not the
Uh-huh.
case in the end. But
Mhm,
over this 11, 12-year period, I knew it was really important to get this information out here, but it just
mhm,
wasn't urgent because I had so many other things going on.
yeah,
Running 5 offices between New
mhm,
York and California, being president of the
mhm,
California Chiropractic Association, do all these other things for the profession. I just didn't really have the time, and it wasn't urgent enough. And then
mhm,
when COVID hit, everything
mhm,
changed, and it went from
yeah,
being just important, it went to becoming urgent. And a publisher reached out to me after doing research and they said, have you thought about writing a book? You seem to have a story that needs to be told. And I said, well, as a
mhm,
matter of fact, I've been working on it for over a decade at that point.
mhm,
And they said, well, we'll help you get it done. And I signed on with them, and best thing I ever did. And everything just came together. And so now, when people, and I'm not even practicing now, but when
mhm,
people ask me this question, I'm like, just look at chapter 6, 5 in my book. Bam,
right.
look at this, and it's
Mhm,
really the solution to so many families' issues. And one of the biggest things that I get is that the parents are too busy to get through an entire book or to be able
mhm,
to really implement these things. So, I came up with a life assessment tool, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that's
yeah,
free for any family, whether
yeah,
they have the book or not, that will
yeah,
actually help them get through the content and make lifestyle changes immediately. Within
mhm,
10 minutes, they could change something in their lives that will increase the
mhm.
health and vitality of their entire family.
So that sounds exciting, and we do want to talk about that dream score. Tell us a little bit about, it's dream dot, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
What does that acronym stand for?
Yeah, so and it's kind of funny because you're the sleep lady, so people always thought that it was a book about, or my wellness centers are called Dream Wellness. They at first they would think it's a sleep place. Be like, no, sleep
Right.
is just a small part of it, a very integral part. But Dream
Hmm.
is an acronym for the 5 keys to a
Hmm.
wellness lifestyle. D is
Hmm.
for diet. That's
Hmm.
everything that goes into your body from the outside world to the inside world. It's everything you eat, drink, taste, touch, smell, feel, hear, all the movies you watch, all the people you spend time with is just as much part of your diet as the food you consume. Many of us
Hmm.
who are over 30 have probably heard the computer term GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Well, if we put
Hmm.
garbage into our bodies, just like putting them into a computer, you get garbage out. And
Hmm.
so we want to make sure that our diet is very nutritious. And I'm not talking about just the food you consume, but the people you spend time with, the books that you're reading, the movies and TV shows that you're watching. And as a sleep expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know how
Yeah.
much, those influences impact your sleep. The last thing, you watch the news before you go to sleep or a horror movie,
Right.
and you wonder, why can't you go to sleep? Or your kids are doing that, or they're
Right.
scared about something. So
Right.
diet is extremely important to understand that it encompasses everything from the outside to the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Then the R is
That's
for
right.
relaxation, and that's
Mm-hmm.
giving your body a chance to call time out, to reset,
Mm-hmm.
repair, regenerate, rejuvenate yourself. It is a state of refreshing tranquility where you're basically setting yourself up to refresh and sharpen that axe. And
Yeah.
very important. And of course, sleep falls into that, meditation, prayer, so many things fall
Yeah,
into
I
it.
saw that. I was going to say that it's nice to kind of mention some of them. Yoga, essential oils, acupuncture, cranial sacral. You really talk about all the different ways that we can take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is
Hmm.
that each of the 5 keys have
Hmm.
dozens of chapters
Hmm.
within them to show you what you can do to build on the diet, to keep it strong and nutritious, to keep your
Right,
relaxation going. So people are not going to
right,
do everything, and they don't need to do everything. They just need to do
right,
some, and they need to get rid of the junk, right? And
right,
that's the
right.
key. So super important. So I think there's probably about a dozen things within the relaxation, right, in and of itself,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
I see that. Yeah, you're right. Exactly doesn't.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
There you go. And
Yeah.
and then so now I got you off topic. So E.
Yep. E is for exercise. That's
Hmm.
any activity that requires physical or mental exertion. So not
Mm.
just, doing exercise in the gym and working out with weights or doing cardio or even doing stairs or whatever it is that you're doing physically. Mental exercises are really important, reading stimulating books and magazines, keeping your mind sharp, doing puzzles. We know that obviously a lot of your audience and my audience are children. So older people, it's not as much of our niche, but we have to understand that the older people need to also get in there. So when they're playing with their grandkids, doing those puzzles with their grandkids could be amazing for both the
Mhm.
kid and for the grandparents. So
Right.
keeping the mind sharp is extremely important. But we also know that physical activity is extremely important for so many different reasons. I go into
Yeah.
all the reasons, and I talk about different types of physical and mental exercise that you can do throughout your life,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
recently heard the saying, sitting is the new smoking.
yeah, yeah, and I've heard that a long time, and it's so true.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
just sitting a sedentary life, it's
Hmm.
just so damaging to the body. We need to get
Hmm.
up and move, and now that I'm no
Yeah.
longer in practice, I mean, heck, as a chiropractor, I'd be
Hmm.
adjusting hundreds of people a week. I'm bouncing around between table and table.
Right.
Now I'm working on book stuff, online courses, podcasts,
Right.
doing that. So I'm sitting a lot. So I make sure I'm spending extra time in the gym. I get up and walk around every couple hours because we
Yeah.
have to do it. My
Yeah.
lifestyle enabled me to do it regularly, but we always have to be in motion.
Yeah.
Very important.
That's one of the things that, they say, like, put a timer on my computer to stand up, and
Hmm.
the Apple Watch helps me to
That's right.
remind me to stand up and complete that circle because it's really hard to do that. It's really easy to just sit and work on the computer. And same for our kids doing homework, playing games on their computer or their phone. Hmm.
That's exactly right. So I have a kindergartner. So he just started
Hmm.
kindergarten, and
Hmm.
he doesn't really have all that stuff, but he's very
Yeah.
active at school and stuff. And when I pick
Hmm.
him up, we go to
Hmm.
the park, we go do some things. So we make sure that there's lots of
Right.
activity. And I noticed
Yeah.
this morning, he's 5.5. I noticed a little six pack this morning when he was getting dressed.
Whoa.
I'm like, you got a six pack like Daddy has. He goes, what's that? And I explained it to him. He's like, does Mommy have one? And I'm like, well, she sort of does sometimes. It was
She
funny. It was
did
a funny
before she
conversation.
had you.
Right, exactly. She's in very good shape too,
I'm sure
but
she
she's built
is.
differently.
Of course, we are as women. Okay, and then A is adjustment. I'm kind
Yes.
of
So
figuring I get
actually,
that one.
you got that one, but I'm going to skip that one for a second. I'm going to go to M,
Okay,
and then we're going to come back
okay,
to A because there's a method to my madness. So the M
okay.
is for mental wellness. That's
Mm,
connecting your inner purpose and passion to your outer
yeah.
goals and tasks in all phases of life. Being
Mm,
right with your self-esteem, self-worth, self-values, and so on and so forth. It's the
yeah.
process of creating a life where when you wake up in the morning, instead of being like, oh God, it's morning, like, oh God, it's morning. Like you're
Right,
excited about it and you're living this
right.
lifestyle where you're putting on the armor. So when all this junk comes at you, you're
Hmm.
fine. You've done your affirmations, you've done your prayer, you're doing all the right things, and bam,
Yeah.
you're living a life of mental wellness, and it's
Hmm.
super cool because when you're careful about gossip, you're careful about the people you spend time with. Life is just so much better when you're happy. lots
Yeah.
and lots of chapters on building mental wellness. I mean, between I think the diet and mental wellness is probably where I have the most amount of chapters, which is great because that's what parents really understand that they need the most. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of content there for them.
And I wonder, I was just thinking when you were saying that about starting the day, how helpful that would be with our children, right? Before they go off to school, even having some little intention or, affirmation or something. Do you talk
Mm-hmm.
about that or do you do that with your,
Absolutely. I teach my
yeah.
son affirmations. We do a little
Hmm.
NLP in the house. I'm always very careful about
Hmm.
reframing what he says. And
Hmm.
when he goes to bed every night, my wife
Hmm.
asks him 3 questions. What did you
Hmm.
learn today? Who did you help today? And I can't remember what the third one is, but it's just like that.
Maybe like, what are you grateful for?
Yes, that was
Like,
it. Thank
yeah.
you. What are you
Hmm.
grateful for? Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Thank you. It's like
Hmm.
it's like we all live the same lifestyle, right? So
Yeah,
those
we
three
try,
questions.
right?
So that's how he
Mhm,
finishes his day, and he's
mhm,
learning
mhm.
really, really great qualities in how to have
Yeah.
gratitude, but more importantly,
Mhm.
how to think and speak towards what you want and how to be inner directed and
Yeah.
all of that. So super
Yeah.
important to do that.
That is
Mhm.
important with our children. And I just think about, they go out into the world in school and they get a lot of stuff thrown at them at a time where they don't have as much experience on
Mhm.
how to filter that out, how not to be hurt by another kid's, mean words or physical action or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And it's interesting because being a kindergartner, he tells me about some of the kids that don't really talk to any other kids, that are quiet, that sit in the corner by
Mm-hmm.
themselves. I said,
Mm-hmm.
that's the perfect person that you should go up to and start being friends
Mm-hmm.
with and just talk to them and get to know them. He said,
Right.
but nobody else wants to talk to them. I go, yeah, but you're different. And then
Right.
he starts talking to them and you just teach him about the opposite of bullying, like being the
Right.
opposite of what a bully would do. And even befriending the bullies because there are always kids that are
Mm-hmm.
picking on the other kids. Become friends with
Mm-hmm.
that person, not by being a
Mm-hmm.
bully, but by showing them the light and how they could actually be kind to people. So there's a
Right.
lot. There's so much that we could teach our kids,
Oh
um,
my gosh.
and
Yeah.
it all fits into mental wellness. And when you live a life
Mm-hmm.
with mental wellness, you'll have more mental health, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
all part of it because
Yeah.
wellness is the process of creating health. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we define wellness as a
Mm-hmm.
proactive approach toward creating mental, physical, spiritual, and social harmony. And so it's not a state. You can't be wellnessy. You can be healthy. You can't be wellnessy, right? You live a
Right.
wellness lifestyle to be healthy.
Right.
And so mental
Right.
wellness leads to mental health, right? So
I
those
love
are the
that.
actions. Yeah. So when you have a strong D.R.E.A.M, you should stay in A, which is being in adjustment. And that I
Right.
define as being in balance mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And of course, having optimal brain body communication through the nervous system. And what happens is in life, we all deal with stressors. We have
Mm-hmm.
chemical, physical, and emotional stressors every day in our life. We can't avoid them, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
chemical stressors could be foods that we eat that we might have an allergy to, or maybe it's genetically modified or has pesticides in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pollution that we breathe in, drugs that we take, pushed or prescribed, you know,
Mm-hmm.
caffeine, alcohol. Like there's so
Mm-hmm.
many chemical stressors that we endure on a daily basis, and we can't avoid all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be aware of what they are. And the dream lifestyle will help you avoid the ones that you can avoid and neutralize or adapt to the ones that you can't. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then you've
Mm-hmm.
got physical stressors that could be sitting at a desk all day. It could be talking on
Right.
your phone. Well, talking on the phone like this, you used to
Mm.
do with the old day before you
Mm-hmm.
had mobile phones, right? That's how we used to talk,
Yeah.
and everyone had necks like this. Now everyone's got forward head posture because they're always on their devices, kids
Yeah.
included. So that's a huge physical stress.
Mm-hmm.
Not exercising or exercising improperly or with an improperly aligned spine. Those are all
Yeah.
examples of physical stresses. Car accidents, falls, um, you know, wearing bad shoes, lots and lots of physical stressors. And then there's
Right.
emotional stressors. That could be something going on at school for a kid. It could be something going on at work for a parent. It could be
Mm-hmm.
relationships. It could be finances,
Mm-hmm.
your satisfaction with your teachers and with your bosses or your employees if you're the boss. So we all endure chemical, physical, and emotional stressors on a daily basis. So the idea is to stay in adjustment, right? To stay in balance mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and having optimal brain body communication through the nervous system by living a strong D.R.E.A.M. And the A comes into that too. So that's what the whole dream
Oh,
lifestyle is about.
oh my God, I love that. That makes so much sense. And so I could see how that could somewhat feel a little overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just
Yep.
imagining like, oh no, like I have to do all of these different things. Is there some like quick way you can help us, Dr. Brian,
Yeah,
on yeah, like what is
absolutely.
this
So
score thing?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so the dream score was created out of necessity. And I have to say, in all my humility, I think it's one of the most brilliant things that I came up with. And this was out of necessity, again, of repeating
Mm-hmm.
myself over and over and over again. So I would
Right.
be asking my practice members, I don't call them patients. Patient needs to
Mm-hmm.
suffer, right? We talk about NLP
Mm-hmm.
using good words,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I would
Mm-hmm.
talk to my practice members, my participants, and I would ask them all these questions about their lifestyle, almost as if I was a stalker, right? I want
Right.
to know everything that they're doing all the time
Right.
because I don't really care if they have high blood pressure, if they're obese, if they have diabetes, what the BMI is. I don't care about that in the sense of I want to know more importantly why they have high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they
Mm-hmm.
have a high BMI? Why are they obese? Why do they have diabetes? Why do they have terrible relationships with their kids or with their bosses or their employees? Why are they not sleeping at night? And so I
Mm-hmm.
would ask all these questions. And then I came up with this lifestyle assessment tool, this 85 question or so survey that basically asks all these questions of everything I want to know. And I created a score. And basically, one of the things when I was finishing the book, I decided I'm going to make the book the report for the score. So what happens is a parent will take the Dream Score survey, the lifestyle assessment
Mm-hmm.
tool. It takes about 20 to 25 minutes to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
instantly they get a report. And it tells them basically like an iPhone battery. It shows if the battery is charging or depleting based on where they
Uh-huh.
are, right?
Uh-huh.
And they get a number from 1 to 100 where they are, what the score is. And we make it as dynamic as possible because wellness is always changing. And in the report, it'll have anywhere from 1 to 85 suggestions in what they need to do to make changes. So it'll be like 2 or 3 lines in the report and tell them exactly what page to go to in the book. So this way they could actually make it through the book in under an hour, change some things, and then retake the test. The test is free, so they could take it as often as they want to take it as they're making
Mm-hmm.
changes. And hopefully their score is increasing throughout.
Mm-hmm. So they make it really, you break it down
I break
for
it down.
us.
Yep. I
Yeah.
make it as
Mm-hmm.
simple as possible because I know most people are not going to read 100,000 words, 460 pages. It's
Right.
overwhelming. It's overwhelming for me. Every
Right.
time I had to proof my book, it was like a weekend. It was crazy. And I know the
Yeah.
content.
Right.
So this just makes it easy. So you could just
Mm-hmm.
implement 1, 2, 3 changes a day if you want, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. It is super easy to make changes. This way you can't use the excuse of I don't have the time and I don't know how. The 3 excuses that people would give is I can't afford it, I don't know how, and I don't have the time. Well, the truth of the matter is the time is simple now. I gave it to them. I'm telling you how to do it, and it's not going to cost you anything. You just
Right.
start implementing the changes. Like maybe go for a walk with your kid. Maybe that
Right.
one little change is going to be the difference. Maybe it's taking stairs when you park your car instead of an elevator in the parking lot if
Right.
it's a shorter walk and it's not bad weather. It's
Right.
simple, stupid changes that it's kind of like you ever take a test and just by taking the
Uh-huh.
test, you already know something different, like because the
Right.
questions are just so obvious. I've
Right.
had people say to me before I even got the report, before I even read the report, I already knew what I could do better.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so just by doing
Mm-hmm.
that exercise of 20
Mm-hmm.
minutes, it can change your
Mm-hmm.
life. And then when you see the report and you look in the book, it's going to go even further.
Yeah, it's sort of like I noticed that when the families that I work with fill out the intake form, which gives me all the details. It sounds like we're similar in that we ask a lot of questions because always it's the answers are in the details, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And a lot of times by the time they finish it and send it in to me, they're like, you know what? I already figured out what I think the problem is.
Amazing,
Just
right?
by focusing and being asked maybe the questions that had them look somewhere that they weren't looking
Mm-hmm.
at their
Yep.
life. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. I love
So I
that.
know we're going to post on the podcast page where to get this score, but can we, for people who are listening right now, want to go right away and go take this assessment? Where do they go?
Oh, absolutely. They could go to dreamwellness.com
Hmm.
and they'll see it on the homepage. They could go to
Okay.
dreamwellness.com/dreamscore, or
Okay.
they can go
Hmm.
to dreamwellnessbook.com. And
Hmm.
if they put their info in there, then they're going to get all these different bonuses that come right away, which are really cool and helpful stuff. Like they'll get like the guide to reading food packaging labels and vitamin mineral guide for deficiencies. They'll get mastering self-love, finding peace and joy in yourself. And a really big one that parents love is the reduced screen use for kids. which is an ebook.
Mm.
It's like 40, 50
Mhm.
pages, and then a digital
Mhm.
detox for parents, which is a workbook. So they get all that stuff for free and the opportunity to take the Dream Score. So they could just go to dreamwellness.com, just take the Dream Score, or dreamwellnessbook.com, get the Dream Score and those other bonuses as well. Doesn't make a difference to me one way or another. If they want the content, they're going to
To
get
get
it.
the
They need it.
bonuses, though, they buy the book.
No, no, they get those
No.
bonuses for free. I've got about another 50 or
Wow.
60 bonuses in the
Oh
book,
my
but these
gosh.
bonuses everybody gets no matter what. Any of your listeners
Wow.
are welcome to get that. That's on the website. They just click a button, they put in their name and email address, and they'll get it emailed to them instantly.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I love that the reducing screen time, especially, how much it increased during the pandemic. Then
That's
now,
exactly.
as we're trying to help our kids kind of detox and maybe perhaps us too, because we're all been living in front of Zoom, you
Absolutely.
know, day and
Absolutely.
night.
And
Yeah.
and if the parents are at the dinner table with their phones, which I've been guilty of, I'm not perfect,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I am perfect. I'm just working on, you know, even better than that. I'm working on divine. I'm perfect working on divine.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yes, we just have to express our perfection is really what it's about. I do believe that we're
I
all
like
perfect,
that.
right? We just have to express it. And so, yes, I mean, I've been seen with my phone also a lot less now. But
Mm,
if we do that, our kids are going to mimic us. And
yeah.
so when we reduce our screen use, our kids will as well. Let's do something
Yeah.
active with our kids instead.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Having young adults, children myself, like they have said to me, "Mom, thank you for kind of putting limits on us around our phones because we
Mm-hmm.
really feel like it's helped us
Yeah,
in our adult
absolutely.
life, connecting with other people and not feeling like, oh, I'm just going to go into my phone. I mean, I know that sometimes our kids do it too when they're feeling anxious, socially anxious, not sure what to say or how to handle something. It's like an escape. Can
Yep.
be a nice, yeah,
Absolutely. And it's not even
yeah.
so much about putting limits on it. That is a piece of it, but it's
Hmm.
replacing it with something that's fun and active
Yeah,
and healthy.
yeah,
So something
yeah,
that they look forward to. Some things that
yeah.
involve the parent and some things that the kids could do on their own. And that's all explained in the ebook as well,
Mm,
which is totally
fabulous.
free. And I mean, how much sleep, how many sleep issues are related to screens, right? Especially at night,
Yeah.
right before going to bed.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
so
Yeah.
many reasons. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're an
Yeah.
expert in that. So,
Yeah. And I saw you have a section too about pillows and mattresses. I
yeah.
know parents talk a lot about that with their children.
Bless you.
Goodness. Thank you. So, allergy time here.
Fun.
Um, one thing I wanted to say before we start to wrap it up, although I still would love some like if they only did, three things, for your children, what could it be? I would love to have something like that at the end. But
Okay.
I noticed that you had a section under adjustment, which I love how you put that in context, that it's really balance,
Mm-hmm.
right, in all areas of your life. But you also talk about posture
Mm-hmm.
and little tips on how positions to nurse, pick up, carry your child, because that's really important. Maybe you could share a little bit about that
Yeah,
for
for
my
sure. I mean,
listeners.
for one, we have to understand why that is so important. The posture. It's not only for aesthetics, and it doesn't only affect your energy and how you perceive people and people perceive you, but you live your life through your nervous system, right? Every
Hmm.
organ, every muscle, every gland, every tissue, every cell in the body knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it because the brain tells it so. And so the way it works is the brain sends electrical messages down the spinal cord, out the nerves to different body parts. And those nerves come out between each vertebra. So if we're doing things in particular that are causing poor posture, we're very likely misaligning vertebrae that could put pressure on nerves, irritate the nervous system, and not allow perfect communication between the brain and the body. In
Yeah.
chiropractic, we call that a subluxation. But
Hmm.
basically, if we're doing the right things to keep our spine in proper alignment,
Hmm.
then my gosh, we're already getting ahead of the game right there. So when
Yeah.
you're carrying your baby, or nursing your
Hmm.
baby. I know,
Hmm.
we did a home birth. And so my
Hmm.
wife nursed for 3 years and she was
Hmm.
very conscious of posture. Like she was not like this with her head down all the time. She made
Right.
sure that she held our baby's eye in certain ways. And I explained this
Hmm.
all in the book. When you're getting them
Hmm.
in and out of the car seat, that's one of the worst things. Like,
Yeah.
especially, they talk about the straw that broke the camel's back, right? You could be dealing
Right.
with a 12-pound, 14, 15-pound newborn, taking him out of the car seat, and the spine goes out like that. Just like
Mm.
in laundry, lifting up a sock and twisting.
Right.
So you've got to
Mm-hmm.
be very mindful of how you position your body. Like, you get into the car, you open up the buckles on it, you take the baby
Right.
out, then you turn your body, you step down and get out of the car. People don't think
Right.
about those things,
No.
and the
Mm-mm.
footwear that you wear, like you mentioned, all these
Mm-hmm.
different things. Like, I'm in Florida now. People wearing sandals and flip flops all the time. There's very little
Right.
support in those. So there are
Right.
orthotic based sandals that you can get, or
Right.
get out of the flip flops every now and then. You can be barefoot, depending on the surface you're walking on. Mattresses
Right.
and pillows, as a sleep expert. I mean, think
Yeah.
about how many people can't sleep at night because they don't have a comfortable bed and they don't realize that's the reason,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or the pillow that they're
Mm-hmm.
on that works on neck correction stuff. So all I do is I bring out these things so people can know that this is something you need to be aware of. If people want suggestions on mattresses or pillows or things like that, I'll make a couple of suggestions in the bonuses and resources section. And
Awesome.
some of them are companies I've worked with, some are just companies that I'm aware of. But I'll only make
Right.
recommendations on things that I've heard great things with, would use myself, or already use myself. So, and I do that with
Awesome.
all the 5 facets of wellness, but
Mm-hmm.
especially in adjustment, because
Mm-hmm.
people are not really doing
Mm-hmm.
things to keep themselves in adjustment. And I think that everyone
Mm-hmm.
should have a chiropractor
Mm.
on the healthcare team to make sure that
Yeah.
everything is in proper alignment. So if they do have poor
Yeah.
posture, or if something's not aligned properly, get yourself
Yeah.
supercharged. Make sure your nervous system is functioning optimally,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
because only 5% of the nerves in the body give information about pain.
Yeah.
So more than 95% of your human experience has nothing to do with how you feel in terms of pain. So we can't rely on how we feel to determine that,
Hmm.
make sure everything's in alignment. Like I said, I take
Right.
care of lots of babies. When I was practicing for all those years, they don't complain of neck pain or back pain, but they could
Right.
have tiny little subluxations that could cause
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of health problems, like ear infections,
Mm-hmm.
allergies, asthma, ADD,
Mm-hmm.
ADHD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Irritability. And a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
things transcend into adulthood as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I had my own experience with my younger daughter when I think maybe she was a young toddler, like maybe even like 13, 15 months, and she kept getting ear infections. And I was just, concerned about all the antibiotics. And I ended up meeting this woman in mom's group who was a pediatric chiropractor. And I brought her, my daughter to her, and she was like, "Oh, is she always getting her ear infections on her left side?" And I was like, "Yes." And she was like, "Well, look, about how she's not, able to turn her neck all the way, and let's adjust her." And she didn't, I think she didn't get an ear infection either ever again or for years. And not always, from just that, and not, cracking her neck or anything else. It really helped me look at it in a different way. And now I see in my practice over the years, more and more babies are spending less and less time on the floor,
That's right.
just moving, and we now have more back to sleep. So we're having more plagiocephaly and torticollis and, so I don't know if you have any like little tidbits for listeners about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in total agreement with you. They're not crawling. First of all, the parents are busy, so they're
Mm-hmm.
working and stuff. So they put the kid in the car seat, or in the
Mm-hmm.
swing or something like that. So they're just
Mm-hmm.
sitting in those postures. So that's
Mm-hmm.
devastating in of itself. Set up a good playpen or something like that if you're working,
Yeah.
and you can kind of watch with your eye. Let them get on their bellies. Let them, do what they have to do. But also the curves in the spine are developed during crawling. So parents want their
Mm-hmm.
kids to start walking quicker because it's so cool. Well, first of all, parents, if you have a really, really, really young baby, just understand something. The sooner they start walking, the more you're going to have to watch them. So let them crawl for as long as they want. You can keep them more
Yeah.
confined. But the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is their spinal development is determined. It needs to develop in a crawling state. The cervical curve in the neck,
Mm-hmm.
right, is developed with the head going up when they're in the
Right.
crawling position. The lordotic
Mm-hmm.
curve in the lumbar area in the low back is
Mm-hmm.
developed by the belly sinking down when they're crawling. So
Right.
those are the two curves. They're called lordotic curves, right? Because we have
Mm-hmm.
kyphotic curves in the sacrum and in the thoracics, the mid back. Those are
Mm-hmm.
naturally developed because when you're in the C shape in the fetal position, that's what develops.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you go from this to like a snake type of thing, which
Right.
is what you
Right.
want, is by
Right.
having the head up and the belly down. And that is so important during development. So you do not want to be getting your kid to go from crawling to walking too soon. You do it when they're ready. So, and
Right.
if it's, late development, then yes, there might be occupational therapy or physical therapy that you might
Sure.
need. But we're not
Sure.
talking about doing it at 8 months old. I mean, come on, let the kid develop and get them off their
Mm-hmm.
heads, get them off their butts, get them
Mm-hmm.
moving,
Mm-hmm.
and that's important.
And I would imagine too that even before crawling, it's that tummy time, that floor time when they raise up their head, and push up and learn to turn and arch their lower back too.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely, 100%. You bet.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big proponent of tummy time too, for sleep because once our children learn to roll or
Hmm.
change their position, even if it's to the side, that's their first step in self-regulation. Like, oh, I'm uncomfortable on my back. I can actually do something. I can change my position, and
Right.
then it tends to help them be able to go to sleep and back to sleep.
Absolutely. And one of the things I would recommend
Mm-hmm.
if the baby is sleeping on their tummy is to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're not always having their head turned in the same direction. So
Mm.
maybe one night you have them turn one way and then you force them to turn it the other way, like you do it yourself or throughout the night. I mean, you don't want to
Oh,
wake the baby, but if they're
no.
constantly having their head turned one direction, it could develop poor posture, torticollis, and other
Mhm.
nerve interferences through spinal alignment stuff. Something to be
Hmm.
aware of. Mhm.
Yeah.
But no
I
tummy
would
time for
imagine.
adults sleeping.
No. Yes. Good point, Brian.
Yeah, yeah. What were you about to say, Kim?
um, I was going to say, so I would imagine you must be a proponent of adjusting an infant after birth.
Oh yes. So like we did a home birth for my son,
Mm-hmm.
and even like thank goodness his daddy's a chiropractor because the
Mm-hmm.
cord was wrapped around his neck a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm ready to catch him. The midwife's got me positioned and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and he's taking a while. We see the cord's wrapped around. She showed me exactly how to maneuver him, and he had his head turned. He had torticollis right away. So
Right.
before I handed him to my wife Brooke, I adjusted him. And it wasn't a
Uh-huh.
pop or anything. It's very
Right. Right.
delicate. Like you
Right.
touch, like you wouldn't even dent a tomato. That's how
Right.
light it is. But the
Right.
sooner a baby can get checked by a chiropractor, the better. Because,
Mm-hmm.
look, even a good natural birth, even a home birth, there's still twisting and turning and everything else.
Yeah.
And you just want the chiropractor to make sure that everything's in alignment. If it's in alignment, that is awesome. And if it's not in
Yeah.
alignment, get it in alignment. It's super easy. They're not going to meet
Mm-hmm.
3 times a week for 50 years.
Right.
It's not like that. It's like you did an adjustment or a couple more, or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, depending on
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. But it's super easy. And it's before they develop all the musculature where they're holding it,
Yeah.
and being so tight where they can't hold an adjustment. Babies, newborns, they hold adjustments so long. Like if there's no
Yeah.
issues, if they're not dealing with all the chemical, physical, emotional stressors or some type of
Right.
limitation of matter, then
Right.
they should be able to hold their adjustment for a good period of time. But absolutely, the
Wow.
sooner someone could get their kid to a pediatric chiropractor, the better.
Awesome. That I'm totally in support of that. So, as a wrap up to this amazing, I mean, I want to again tell people to go to your website and take the assessment tool. But is there anything like that you would love? Like I always say, like if you only take one thing away from whatever my talk or this podcast episode, what would you like it to be? Or maybe you could even have more than one.
Well, there are so many.
Yeah.
If I had to, I'm going to go two, okay? Because I
Okay.
think that these are the two most important things.
Okay.
And we touched on one of them. If you have a young child, just take them to a chiropractor and just make sure that everything is in proper alignment because so
Hmm.
many people end up suffering with issues that easily
Yeah.
could have been avoided if the nervous system was functioning optimally through proper spinal alignment. That's number one. And
Okay.
number two is in the nutritional world, because I see this all the time, is just be conscious. Think about what you're putting into your child's body before you give it to him or her.
Hmm.
Because you don't understand that even,
Yeah.
anything with like high fructose corn syrup or hydrogenated oils, I mean, there's so many different things. And I talk about all the things. I talk about my deal breakers that you have to avoid.
Yeah.
Just be conscious. If you're not going to do it for yourself, at least do it for your child, right? They
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
have chocolate cake on their first birthday because it's a fun thing to do. They don't need that
Right.
sugar overload. Okay. There are
Right.
ways of
Right.
celebrating the first birthday without that. So just be very
Hmm.
conscious and think, is this really what my child needs right now?
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
think consciously. That's the main
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. And also, in that process, we're ending up teaching our children how to eat healthy themselves.
Mm-hmm. Of
Because we
course.
all know that eventually they'll go to somebody else's house and have
Mhm.
some junk food, but
Right.
every once in a while, I'm sure
Well,
it's not.
the whole thing is, and this is all about conscious parenting, is
Yeah.
building the value in a healthy lifestyle.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's something that Brooke and I did a really good job of with
Hmm.
Zion, because he's always like, "Will this make me big and strong?" He
Hmm.
always asks those questions before he does
Good.
anything, not because he's
Right.
scared, but because he wants to do it. And he passes up so much stuff with sugar and so many things that I would say is destructive. I don't like to label things as
Right.
good or bad. I say
Right.
constructive or destructive. So he
Mm.
passes up so many destructive things in his life because he knows he values health and wellness. And it's extraordinary that he's done that for years now. I mean, he's 5.5 and he's always been that way. And I pray to God that he stays that way.
Right.
Obviously he could get his rebellious years when he's a teenager and stuff.
Sure.
But look, when he goes to school, they have the free lunches there, they have all the sugars. He doesn't do anything. And if he has a snack, he's like, "Daddy, I just had an apple as a snack today. I didn't have
Right.
the Doritos that they gave out, and I didn't
Right.
have the chocolate milk." So
Right.
it's about
Right.
not only teaching them, what to eat and what not to eat, what's destructive and constructive, but the why.
Hmm.
When they
Hmm.
understand why and they don't feel like it's coming from discipline, but more about empowerment, then they're more likely to make better choices when they're with their
Right.
friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that will carry on for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So we're going to have on the sleeplady.com/podcast page all of Dr. Stenzler's resources so you can follow him on his website and social media. And probably most important, I hope you all go to dreamwellness.com and take the assessment. I'm going to, and go see, what my score is and how I can make further improvements in my life and my family's health and wellness. And if you really love this episode, please download it and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And thank you again, Dr. Stenzler, for joining me. So much, so many great tidbits and helpful things that we can do to change our lives and our children's lives.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for doing this and for helping so many parents out there.
Yeah. Bye bye.